I can still smell the smoke burning my skin as flames devour everything around me. My name is Cassandra of Troy, and this is the story of how I died on the night my city fell. The night all my warnings were ignored. The night a wooden horse brought the destruction I always knew would come. And before we're done, you'll understand why my curse is not just mine, it's yours too. This is my testimony from beyond death. A warning that echoes across millennia, a truth that was never believed until it was too late. Let me take you back to the beginning, so you understand how a woman can live, knowing exactly when and how she will die, and still be powerless to prevent it. I was born in the gleaming towers of Troy, daughter of King Priam and Queen Hecuba, when our city was the jewel of the known world. Our walls were legendary, said to be built by gods, 50 feet high, 10 feet thick. Our wealth flowed from trade routes that connected Asia to Europe. And our arrogance? That was infinite. Troy was magnificent. Imagine white marble temples catching the first rays of dawn, glowing like they had their own light. Streets paved so perfectly you couldn't slip a knife blade between the stones. Markets overflowing with silks, wines, and spices. From places so distant, people whispered their names like myths. We had running water in our palaces, heated baths, gardens that bloomed all year. We were civilization at its peak, and we knew it. I had 18 siblings. My father used his children the way other men used armies, to secure alliances, display power, and project his legacy across the Mediterranean. Hector was the golden son, brave, honorable, beloved. Paris was beautiful and reckless, the one who would bring Helen to our city and doom us all. Polyxena was gentle and kind. And then there was me, the strange daughter, the one who saw things that weren't there, the one who woke up screaming about events that hadn't happened yet. From my earliest memories, I was different. I don't remember a time when the future wasn't bleeding through the present, like wet ink soaking through parchment. At 3 years old, I told my nurse she would die of a fever before winter. She laughed, ruffled my hair. She died in autumn. At 5, I described how our stable master would fall from his horse and break his neck. It happened 3 weeks later. By 7, no one was laughing anymore. They thought I was blessed. My mother paraded me in front of visiting dignitaries. Ask her, she'd say, proud. I'd predict the weather, the sex of unborn children, the outcome of small disputes. I was her party trick, living proof that Troy was favored by the gods. No one understood what it felt like from the inside. Each vision felt like a violation, like having your skull pried open and someone else's memories poured in. Like drowning in futures that weren't yours to see. The visions came without warning. I would be eating dinner and suddenly see the bread molding, the wine souring, the table rotting beneath my hands. I would walk through the garden and watch flowers wither in seconds, seasons flickering past in heartbeats. Time, for me, wasn't a straight line. It was a river, and I could see all the way to the distant ocean while everyone else saw only the next bend. Tell me, what would you do if you knew how it all ends and no one believed you? When I turned 15, my father decided I should serve as a priestess in Apollo's temple. For a royal daughter, it was an honor. For me, it was also an escape. I was already spending most of my time there, hiding in the cool marble halls, trying to find peace in ritual and routine. The visions were quieter there. Or maybe I was just learning how to survive them. I was 16 when Apollo came to me. Not in a dream, not in a symbol. In flesh and presence, so intense it hurt to look at him. It was late afternoon. I was alone, sweeping the temple floor. The light changed first, from warm gold to something too bright, too sharp, like staring into the sun. Then he was simply there, as if he had always been there, and I had only just noticed. He was beautiful in a way human language can't capture. Imagine perfection so complete it becomes terrifying. Beauty that makes you want to cry, because you know you'll never see anything like it again. His eyes were molten gold. When he looked at me, I felt bare, every secret, every hidden thought exposed. He spoke, and his voice was music and thunder, honey and lightning. He told me I was special, that he had been watching me, that my visions came from him, a gift he had placed inside me because he loved me. He said he could give me more. Not just flashes, not fragments, but the complete gift of prophecy. Past, present, future, woven together with perfect clarity. All I had to do was love him in return. I was 16. A god was offering me the universe. How could I refuse? Drunk on the promise of ultimate knowledge, I accepted. He kissed my eyes, and for a heartbeat, I saw everything. Every timeline, every choice and consequence, every birth and death from the beginning of the world to its end. It was ecstasy and agony, too much for a mortal mind. I saw the pattern of existence, beautiful and horrific at the same time. For 3 days I lived in that expanded state. I knew what my mother would say before she opened her mouth. I knew which ships would appear on the horizon before the sailors even raised their sails. I knew which crops would fail, which alliances would crumble, which children would grow into heroes or monsters. I was drunk on omniscience, addicted to knowing. On the 4th day, Apollo came to claim what he thought he had bought. He expected me to fall into his arms, to give myself to him. After all, he had given me everything, hadn't he? But in those 3 days of seeing every possible future, I had seen what would happen if I became his lover. I saw myself as one more conquest, forgotten when he got bored. I saw children caught between worlds, cursed by their blood. I saw myself years later, a mad priestess, consumed by visions no one believed. So I did the unthinkable. I, a mortal girl of 16, looked a god in the face and said no. His beauty twisted into fury, the temple shook, the air crackled. He couldn't take back his gift. The magic of the gods doesn't work like that. A gift freely given cannot be unmade, but it can be corrupted. He grabbed my face, his fingers burning my skin, and kissed me again. This time, his mouth tasted like ash and poison. He whispered the curse into me. I would keep my gift. I would see the future with perfect clarity. But no one would ever believe me. Not one soul would truly hear my warnings. Even when my predictions came true, even when events unfolded exactly as I described, people would forget I had ever spoken. They would twist reality in their minds to avoid admitting I had been right. And then he was gone. I was alone in the temple with a gift that had become torture, with truth that would never be believed. The first time I felt the full weight of that curse, I was still 16. I had a vision of my brother Hector. I saw him ride out to face Achilles in single combat. I saw the Greek spear pierce his throat. I saw Hector's body dragged around our walls, a prince turned into a trophy. I ran to him. I grabbed his arm, crying, begging, choking on the words. I described everything, the light on Achilles' armor, the angle of the spear, the moment of his death. I begged him not to fight, to stay inside the walls, to let the Greeks exhaust themselves against our defenses. He listened kindly, the way you listen to a frightened child. Then he smiled and patted my head. "Cassandra," he said, "you worry too much. I'm the greatest warrior in Troy. Achilles is strong, yes, but the gods protect me. We can't hide forever. What would people think?" I fell to my knees and clung to him, sobbing. People gathered, whispering. My father arrived, saw his daughter hysterical, and ordered guards to take me away. They carried me off while I screamed my brother's death in vivid detail. 3 days later, Hector rode out. I watched from the walls, fingers digging into the stone. The chase around the city. Athena, disguised as his brother, tricking him into stopping. The spear through his throat. His body tied to Achilles' chariot, dragged through the dust. Exactly as I had seen. I screamed until my throat tore. I ripped my clothes. I hit the wall until my hands bled. When my father came to me, broken with grief, I could barely speak. "I told you," I rasped. "I told you this would happen." I begged him not to go. He looked at me with pity and confusion. "Cassandra," he said softly, "how could you have known? This is terrible luck. But Hector died with honor. We must be strong. I told you, I screamed. 3 days ago, I saw this. But in his memory, I had said no such thing. The curse had already rewritten the past inside his mind. Even when others remembered seeing me begging Hector not to fight, they explained it away. She's always been anxious. She had a feeling. Just coincidence. That's when I finally understood. The horror wasn't just that people wouldn't believe me. It was that they couldn't. The war dragged on for 10 years. 10 years of men dying while I watched their deaths in advance. 10 years of shouting into ears that would never truly hear. The war, they said, began because of my brother Paris, because he stole Helen from Sparta. Or maybe she came willingly. It depends who you ask. Either way, it gave King Agamemnon the excuse he wanted. The greatest military expedition the world had ever seen. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands of warriors. The legendary heroes of our age camped on our shores. They were here to break Troy. And we held. For 10 years, we held. Our walls were too strong, our supplies too rich, our warriors too skilled. Stalemate. But from the first day they landed, I knew how it ended. I had seen it 100 times. The fall of Troy, always shifting in small details, always collapsing the same way. Fire, blood, ruin. I warned them. Gods, how I warned them. I warned Paris not to fight Menelaus in single combat. He did anyway, and barely survived. I warned my father not to trust Greek peace offerings. He ignored me and almost walked into 3 ambushes. I warned our generals which parts of the wall were weakest. They dismissed me, and those were the exact points the Greeks attacked. Every time, I was right. Every time, they found a way to explain it that didn't involve me. Luck, strategy, their own brilliance. Never once. Cassandra was right. We should listen to her. I saw Achilles. Death before it happened. Paris, arrow, guided by Apollo. Yes, that Apollo. Striking the one vulnerable spot on the greatest Greek warrior alive. I could have warned Achilles. Saved his life. But why would he believe a Trojan princess? Why would anyone believe mad Cassandra? I saw Ajax fall on his own sword when he lost the contest for Achilles. Armor. I saw Patroclus die in borrowed armor. I saw my nephew thrown from the walls. I saw every death twice. Once before, once when it happened. You don't stay sane after that. As the years passed, the visions got worse. I stopped living in the present at all. I would raise a cup to my mouth and taste ashes from fires not yet lit. I would walk through the palace and see the halls collapsed, blood on the floors, bodies where servants were smiling. My family decided I was losing my mind. Maybe I was. They confined me more and more, hiding me from guests, from visiting allies, from the court. I became a ghost in my own home, wandering at night, whispering warnings to walls and empty rooms. And then, in the 10th year, I had the vision that would haunt every remaining hour of my life. It hit me in the throne room, in front of dozens of people. I saw it with perfect clarity. A massive wooden horse, hollow inside, standing outside our gates. Greek soldiers hidden in its belly, 30 men, including the cunning Odysseus. Our people dragging it into the city, cheering in victory. The trapdoor opening at midnight. The slaughter. I saw Troy burning, towers collapsing, temples cracking. My father murdered at an altar. My mother taken as a slave. My sister Polyxena sacrificed at Achilles' tomb. And I saw my own death, crushed beneath a burning beam. When I woke, I was lying on the floor, faces all around me. I grabbed the nearest person and poured out everything. I drew the horse, explained the hidden door, estimated how many men could fit inside. I gave them everything I saw, down to the timing. They humored me. My father ordered extra guards. My brothers promised to be cautious. And then, before the day had passed, they forgot. The curse had already done its work. Weeks passed. Then, months. The vision hung over me like a storm cloud that only I could see. I knew it was coming, but not when. I started sleeping in my clothes, a small bag packed near my door. I said goodbye to my favorite rooms, touching the walls as if I could anchor them to the present. I was already living in the aftermath. Then, one morning, everything changed. The Greek camp was empty. After 10 years, their fires were out, their ships gone from the horizon. Troy exploded in celebration. We had won. We had outlasted them. The greatest army in the world had broken against our walls. I tried to tell them this was the trap. No one listened. They were too busy dancing. And there, on the beach, stood the horse. I will admit this. It was magnificent. Crafted from fine wood, towering 3 stories high. Joints so clean they were almost invisible. An inscription carved into its side. For their return home, the Greeks dedicate this thank offering to Athena. The Greeks were gone. They have left us a gift, a trophy. I ran through the streets, screaming, "It's a trap! Don't touch it! Don't bring it inside! There are soldiers inside! I have seen this!" People stared at me with pity. Some tried to calm me. Others whispered that the war had finally broken me. My brothers, who loved me, tried to take me back to the palace, for my own good. I tore free and ran straight to the horse. I beat my fists against its flank and screamed, "I know you're in there. I know Odysseus is listening. Come out now, please." Silence. Of course. From their perspective, I was just a madwoman talking to wood. From mine, I was trying to stop a city from murdering itself. My father ordered guards to restrain me. "Cassandra," they said gently, "the war is over. You can rest now. We're safe." "We are not safe," I sobbed. "We've never been less safe. At midnight, the men inside this horse will open the gates. The army is hiding. Everyone will die." Even as I spoke, I could see it in their eyes. The curse twisting their minds away from my words. Not cruelty, just impossibility. They heard me. They couldn't accept me. The leaders of Troy gathered to decide the horse's fate. Some, wisely, wanted to burn it. Others wanted it inside the city, a symbol of our victory. The debate dragged on. Then Laocoon spoke. He was a priest of Poseidon, respected, wise. He agreed with me. Whether he truly believed me, or simply shared my suspicion, I'll never know. "I fear the Greeks even when they bring gifts," he said. Words the world would remember long after our bones turned to dust. To prove his point, he hurled a spear at the horse. It struck, and the wood rang hollow. Inside, I knew. 30 hearts jumped. For a heartbeat, I thought, this is it. This is the moment it all changes. Someone they believe is finally on my side. And then the gods, or fate, or coincidence intervened. 2 massive sea serpents surged out of the water. They moved straight toward Laocoon and his sons. We watched, frozen, as the serpents wrapped around them. The boys died quickly. Laocoon fought longer, still reaching for his children as the life was squeezed out of him. When it was over, the beach was silent. Then someone whispered, "It's a sign from the gods." Laocoon offended Athena by attacking her offering. "The horse is sacred. We must honor it." A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. The serpents slid back into the sea. Laocoon and his sons lay broken in the sand. The last man who might have convinced them to listen to me had just died in the most dramatic way possible. How could I compete with that? I fell to my knees. I begged one last time. "Please, don't bring it inside. Burn it. Sink it. Leave it here. Just don't break our walls for it." No one listened. Of course no one listened. They began dragging the horse toward the city. Our gates weren't wide enough, so they partially dismantled the wall. Think about that. We broke our own defenses to welcome our destruction. Children ran alongside, touching the wood for luck. Women threw flowers. Men cheered. It was a parade. A festival. A celebration of our own death. I watched from a distance, empty, already grieving a city that still believed it was safe. At sunset, they placed the horse in the main square. Garlands around its neck. Wine poured at its base. That night, Troy opened its finest wine and emptied its cellars. Music flooded the streets. People danced, laughed, sang. Children stayed up late, dizzy with joy. Everyone thought the nightmare was finally over. I sat alone in my room, watching the celebration from my window, counting down the hours until midnight. I knew the sequence. I had seen it too many times. Trapdoor, ropes, soldiers, gate, army, fire, smoke, silence. I thought about running, climbing over the wall, disappearing into the countryside. But I had seen my own death. There was no version of the story where I walked away. Fate doesn't bargain. Around 11, the laughter started to fade. Drunk citizens stumbled home. Guards took their posts, relaxed and complacent. I couldn't stay in my room. I went to the square. The horse loomed over me in the moonlight. People lay passed out around its feet. I walked up to it and placed my hands on the wood. "I know you're in there," I said quietly. "I know Odysseus is listening. I know there are 30 of you, cramped and waiting for midnight. I know your plan. I've known it for months." I pressed my forehead against the wood. "I'm not going to try to stop you anymore. I can't. No one here believes me. They never have. I just want you to remember this. Someone knew. Someone saw through your plan. Someone tried to warn them. When history calls this your great victory of cunning, remember there was a woman screaming the truth the whole time. Inside, I thought I heard a shift. A creak. A held breath. No one answered. Why would they? From their point of view, I was just a girl talking to a wooden statue. I went back to my room. Not to escape, to wait. Midnight came. I didn't need to see to know. The trapdoor opening, ropes lowering, warriors descending, armor muffled, blades drawn, Odysseus first, then Menelaus, Ajax, Neoptolemus. Others history would remember or forget. They moved like ghosts through the sleeping streets, killed the sentries, reached the gates, pushed. The gates opened. Outside, the Greek army, which had never really left, poured in. The first scream split the night, then another, then dozens, then hundreds. Troy woke up inside its own nightmare. From my room, I heard everything. The clash of metal, the crackle of fire, the panic. I heard buildings catching. I heard people I loved die. My brothers fought and fell. Hector was already dead, but Diopus Polites and others died, trying to defend the palace. They called on gods who didn't answer. My father, old King Priam, was murdered at an altar. My mother, Queen Hecuba, was stripped of her crown and humanity in a single night. The palace burned. The smoke reached my room. Greek soldiers burst in, killing men, seizing women. I ran, not to survive, but to choose where I would die. I ran to the temple of Athena. If I was going to leave this world, I wanted the gods to see what they had allowed. The temple was already on fire when I arrived. I threw myself at the statue's feet, clinging to cold marble, begging for sanctuary I knew would never come. This was the moment I had seen. This was where my timeline ended. Ajax the Lesser found me there. His eyes were wild, his sword bloody. He saw a young woman alone in a burning temple and decided I was his prize. Sacred ground meant nothing. The goddess' protection meant nothing. He dragged me away from the statue. I fought, but fear and smoke had already drained me. On the temple floor, he took what he wanted. The stone goddess watched with empty eyes. The gods did nothing. Afterward, he hauled me through burning streets. Troy was hell. Bodies in piles. Children crying over parents who would never get up. Women pulled away by their hair. The towers I had grown up in collapsed under the weight of centuries and fire. The library, full of knowledge older than our city, went up in flames. Our jewel of a city shattered in a single night. We reached what remained of the palace. There, in the courtyard, stood Agamemnon. He was assigning captives like spoils, pointing at women and children as if they were objects. When he saw me, bloodied, burned, barely standing, He smiled. "That one," he said, pointing with his sword. "She's mine. A prophet for a queen." How fitting. In that moment, I saw his future too. I saw his wife, Clytemnestra, waiting back home. I saw the bitterness in her eyes over their sacrificed daughter, Iphigenia. I saw the bath she would draw for him, the net she would throw over him, the axe she would swing. I saw him die in that bath, screaming her name. I wanted to laugh, to tell him he was claiming a prize he would never really enjoy, that his victory was already rotting. But my voice was gone, and even if I had spoken, would he have believed me? Of course not. The curse doesn't lift just because the city is burning. They chained me with the other women. We were herded together, a mass of grief. Some sobbed, some stared, empty. Some cursed the Greeks with every word they knew. I was quiet. My mind had already stepped beyond my body. As we were marched toward the ships, a burning section of wall collapsed nearby. A massive beam broke free. I saw exactly where it would fall. I could have moved. I had time, but I didn't. For the first time in my life, I chose not to fight what I knew was coming. The beam crashed down, crushing my chest. Pain lit up every nerve. My ribs shattered. Fire licked at my clothes. My lungs filled with blood and smoke. And under all that, there was peace. It was over. For once, there was only the present. No more futures. No more what if. No more warnings unheard. Just this moment. Then nothing. As I died, I thought about Apollo's curse. I had spent my life seeing the future. I had spent my life warning others. I had failed every time. Not because I was wrong, not because I was quiet, but because people don't want to believe in the disasters they can still avoid. Here is what I understood in those final breaths, and what I need you to hear. We are all Cassandra, not literally, not cursed by gods, but in the ways that matter, yes. We see relationships falling apart long before the breakup. We see businesses heading straight for collapse. We see red flags in politics, in climate, in our friends, choices. We warn, we're ignored. And we do the same to others. The curse isn't that no one believed me. The curse is believing that knowing the future means you can change it. That truth, by itself, is powerful enough to alter fate. That people will drop their celebrations because you told them a wooden horse is dangerous. They won't. Humans don't want to believe in coming disasters. We want to believe we're safe. That our walls are strong. That our victories are real. We want to believe the giant wooden horse is a gift, not a trap. We want to celebrate, not prepare. And the people who try to warn us? We call them crazy, paranoid, overdramatic. We call them Cassandra. I died in the fall of Troy, crushed beneath a burning beam while my city collapsed around me. My body turned to ash. The wind doesn't remember my name. But my story survived. Someone remembered. Someone wrote it down. Someone carried it forward so that you could hear it now. So here is the only question that matters. Will you listen? Will you be different from the Trojans? Or will you drag your own wooden horses inside your walls, convinced that this time it's different? I was Cassandra of Troy, princess, prophet, casualty of a war that should never have been fought. I saw the future with perfect clarity. I tried with every breath to change it. I died anyway. But I'm still speaking. My voice is somewhere inside this video, inside your mind, saying, beware the gifts that seem too perfect. Question the victories that come too easily. Look for the soldiers hiding inside the beautiful facades. And remember, just because everyone else is celebrating doesn't mean the danger is gone. Sometimes the celebration is the danger. Believe the Cassandras. They're rarely wrong. They're just rarely believed before it's too late.